guys. I'm going to move my computer just a little. Welcome to the studio. Happy Monday. It's good to talk with you. I've got 2 pages worth of notes that we're going to go over today. But first, let me just flip over to my YouTube page and just make sure that we are live. It looks good over here. Fabulous. I have Google Fiber being installed. Well, not actually fiber, but like the infrastructure to be able to run Google Fiber is going to be installed today. So I got to hurry up and get this video done because they need access to my office to do magical things to it. It's an exciting day here at the Liberty Studio. I am excited. We've been wanting some sort of fiber service. Could be Google, could be AT&T for some time now. So, big day. So it is week 2. You can see here on my screen, I've got week 2. If this is your first time seeing a video, it might be because you just signed up over the weekend. You're a Monday artist. You're actually in week 1. Or maybe it went to your spam last week, but this is the second video of our year. So it is week 2 of September 2025. Now, technically, Monday's classes, right? You guys are a week behind because of Labor Day. Sometimes in some years, the way the month works out, you end up with only 4 Mondays in the month of September. And so we actually have to start you early, and you actually start in August. But this year there are 5 Mondays in the month of September, so we didn't have to do that. Didn't have to cut into your summer, but it does mean that you run just one week behind for the videos. You're not really that far behind, but when you see the videos and we talk about like this is what we're doing in classes this week, just know that last week's video is what you guys should be looking at for what you're doing in classes. Okay. Also starting this week are our preschool classes. So they had all of last week off. And so we have our preschool classes kicking off this week, all of our preschool fundamentals and our toddler art and play groups. You guys will have your first classes of the year. So every Monday you're going to get a video message from me talking about what the kids are learning in classes. Today I brought some examples with me. So I'm going to show you some of the drawing sketchbooks from last week. I've also got a couple pictures in the slideshow. Typically I also show you where our multimedia kids are in the steps of their projects. Some examples there so you can kind of visualize. But we don't have much to show you this week, so I didn't bring any multimedia stuff. But I did bring drawing to show you that. I do want to mention, just kind of in our intro, our Plattwood studio is dealing with a water main break and has been since midweek last week. We've been off and on without water. We are still without water. It's not just Orange Easel, it's the entire complex. And not just our building, but all the way up, like that whole triangle area by like Gators and Plattwood's Precision Auto Care, all the way down to like Casey Sushi. Like we're all without water, and we have been. So it's been really fun. If you go, there's crews working. You can see them there, but there's really no ETA on when they're going to get that back up for us. We are doing the best we can with wipes and bottled water and of course sanitizer and stuff like that, but we do ask if you possibly could use the restroom before you come to the studio, because those are out of commission. Okay, hopefully soon. I'm gonna call the city again today and be like, what's going on? It's really hard to run a business without water. So all right, on that happy note, let's go through our next couple things. Oh, hang on, I think I need to set up hotkeys. Just a sec. I forgot. I can't switch my slideshow unless I set this up. And on my, I'm on a different computer. So I have hotkeys set up on the other one, but not on this one. Let's go ahead and set up that one. There we go. Hopefully it'll apply it while we're still live. If not, and I messed up my video, I'll have to... Let's see. Are we still streaming or did I screw it up? Oh yeah, we're still good. All right. All is well. All is well. All right, here we go. I did have the calendar. This was new this year, and I think I'll keep doing it just so people can kind of visualize. This is this week. Everyone has class this week. There's nothing funky going on in the schedule. We are going to talk about some funky stuff happening at the end of the month. We'll get to that in housekeeping. Monday classes, first class this week, right? All right, here we go. Preschool fundamentals. Let's chat with you guys. You guys are going to start your year with The Book with a Hole. This is a Herve Toulet book. It's amazing, and it's out of print, and we adore this book. It's very interactive, so the kids will get to actually draw during our kind of gathering time today. We actually prepped all their journals with holes, so they'll make their own holy art. We're going to look at some art of Vasily Kandinsky and make concentric circle art, and we'll warm up with the classic oil pastels and watercolors. So I have no pictures because fundamentals classes haven't met yet. Actually, the Plattwoods one should be going on right now for the first class of the year, but we'll have some cute preschool pictures hopefully after this week. Is that everything? I had a note. Liberty families. Parking can sometimes be tricky here in our lot. Between Hammerhand and Busy Bean, their busiest time is also in the morning. And so sometimes parking right at 9:30 or right at 11 when you're trying to pick up or drop off can be really, really tricky. So I'm going to send an email today that has details on like alternative places to park. There's plenty of parking around us. And then there's also parking that you want to not go to, like the chiropractor's lot, jeans cleaners. Like those are places that they do not appreciate our lot overflowing into their business, which I totally respect, but there are other places that you can go. And so I'm going to send an email later today. We actually have a map that we've created that we'll talk through that. As we get through our year and we get going with this, if it's something that families are interested in, we are open to doing like a curbside drop-off. We did that during summer camps and it worked really, really well. And so I didn't figure we needed to start the year with that because most people are going to want to come in first couple times anyway. But if it's a pain point for you, we are totally fine with instituting a drop-off program where you just pull up and give us your children. Okay. All right, here we go. We're going to talk through some multimedia classes. So it is Pastel Month. A reminder for everybody who has pastels and doing multimedia classes. It is like super messy. It seems like it should be clean. It's not. Wear art clothes to the studio. Our classes this week for our K-3rds are going to be in week 2. So this is a picture from week 1. You can see we are leading a discussion and looking at some art history. We always kick off our month by looking at famous art by contemporary artists, and it's going to either go with what our subject is or it's going to kind of align with what our media is. So our media being chalk pastels, our subject for this class is an abstract kind of shaped, interlocking shape party. So we looked at different artworks that have one or the other or both. Usually it's one or the other though. So that's what this is. So last week we did this, we decorated our journal covers, we got to know each other, and we talked about what our project was. This week when they come in, now again, that's Tuesday through Friday artists, right? Because Monday people, you guys are doing that this week. Tuesday through Friday people, when you guys come in this week, we're going to review that project. We're going to review kind of everything that we did. We're going to start brainstorming. We're going to talk about the difference between organic and geometric shapes and begin drawing on our project. So they'll actually get out that big 12 by 18 inch piece of construction paper and have a tape blue border on it and start drawing out their shapes and coloring them in. Our 4th and our 5th and our homeschool kiddos did the same thing. We did the slideshow up and we talked through different artists. Of course, they have a different slideshow because they have a different art project. It may have some similarities because they're doing the same medium, but they have a totally different subject. So their subject for their art is food, and they're looking at close-ups of kind of snack foods. So popsicles, boba, chips. We had some candy in there. We had like donuts, right? So pie, because it was a Theobald picture. So we've got all these great examples of art that kind of leans towards like pop art, a lot of like high contrast, heavily saturated colors, and we talked through that with a great discussion. We brainstormed different subject ideas, and then here in this picture here, you can see that they're actually getting the pastels out. So we did play with the media, and we practiced making gradients and blends, new colors, how to smush it with our fingers or use a Q-tip. Just a chance to kind of familiarize ourselves with that media before we have to dive in with a project. So that's what's going on here. I'm going to check my notes and make sure that that's it. Okay, so this week 2 for Tuesday through Thursday people, right? Because Monday's starting this week. Tuesday through Thursday people, you guys are going to start your project. So we'll get out your paper. We're working on 9 by 12 black construction paper, and they're going to have their subject brainstormed. We're going to probably do that in our journals, just little thumbnail sketches. If they need a reference image, we will find them one. Remember, everybody's is different. We're not all doing a donut. We're not all doing a cupcake. We're not all doing boba tea. Like, they pick. They're all going to be different. If they need a reference image, we will find one for them and get it printed. And they will start sketching that out, just the contour of it, onto their black paper. And then we'll start what we call blocking in with color, which is just that first kind of layer of color that needs to happen. I'm going to see why oh, that's not important. We can wait on that. All right, here we go. My 6th, 7th, and my 8th, 12th multimedia classes. So there's these guys doing the exact same activity. Look, they've got their little blocks of color and working with pastels. A lot of our high schoolers have done this so many times. They're like, yes, I'll do the worksheet. So they're also, just a quick refresher course for a lot of them in chalk pastels and the medium. They are doing, this isn't chalk, I'm sorry. This is oil pastels. So this is new because we haven't done oil pastels with them in a number of years. So they did the same concept of these boxes of mixing new colors, laying down a solid color, creating a gradient or a blend or shadow or highlight. But instead of using chalk pastels, they're using oil pastels. And that's because their medium is oil pastels, not chalk. Got to remember that. Their subject is birds, so they also looked at a slideshow of different birds and birds as a subject through art history. A lot of stylized choices in this one on whether they wanted to lean more realistic or if they wanted to go more illustrative. It will be totally up to them, as well as their choices in composition. And the type of bird. I mean, they have so many choices. They'll get to do kind of similar to the 4th and 5th and the homeschool kids this week, where they have to pick their subject. They have to brainstorm their composition. We'll do that with little thumbnail sketches. They'll get their paper. They're working on 9x12 mixed media paper that is white. And then they'll start sketching that out and laying down their first layer of oil pastels. All right, creative explorations. I had photos, you guys, and I forgot to add them to the slideshow. So there were some really great photos that Miss Grace sent me, and I failed to put them up here. But we had 4 creative explorations classes last week, and everybody had a great time. I heard that the favorite in Liberty was a lot of water beads. We really enjoyed playing in the sensory bin. In Platwoods, I know, again, they didn't have water. So they did not make water beads, but they had a bean bin, so it's that same kind of circular repeating dot pattern, only we just used beans instead. They'll continue that, and that was also really popular, was the sensory bin. The stations stay the same for the month, which is good, because our hope is that now that they've kind of played in this station, that maybe the next time they come in, they'll explore other things, right? So it's kind of run its course, and so maybe we'll either go find something new to do, or we'll go deeper with what we were working on. So everything will stay the same, and I'll get you some pictures next week. My Drawing 101 class. So this is where I'm going to pull out some journals. So remember, in our drawing classes, we work in journals. I got 3 for Drawing 101 that I grabbed. We work in journals. They look like this. They're fairly good size. We decorated our covers this week. And then we did our first lesson, which was a self-portrait lesson. I'm going to show you a couple different examples. So we did some self-portrait drawing. And anytime you see green, you're going to, on here, because I have a green screen back there, it's not going to show up. But so we did a self-portrait lesson where we just established a benchmark of how we draw and what a portrait is, right, was one of our goals, as well as illustrating what our interests are. That's what the thought bubbles there above our heads. And you can see the lesson label is there to label the lesson. Here's another really great example. Good stuff going on. And then there's our lesson label. Parents, if you ever want to see what your kids are doing in class, we're happy to share their journals. We have them live in the studio just so you don't have to remember to bring them back. But it's not a secret. Okay, good stuff going on in here. Okay. So our self-portrait lesson is done. We'll move on to a lesson number 2 this week. And I have to look it up. So what are we doing this week? Oh, they're focusing on the eye. So in our self-portrait lesson, we used mirrors, which means we're drawing from life. In our next lesson, we're going to have our first lesson that uses a photographic reference. And so I've got these cutouts of a whole bunch of different close-ups of different eyes. And we're going to look at those, and we're going to practice drawing them. So we're using our powers of observation. We also introduced the concept, since they're black and white photos, of value, right? Because these are gray scale photos. And so we're looking at not just the lines that define our eye, but also the values that define our eye, and being able to adjust our pressure that we use in our pencil to adjust our value, right? The harder I push, the darker it is. The lighter I tickle the paper, the lighter it is. We also have lots of different drawing pencils at the studio. So we have everything from like a 6H pencil. It's connected. Hang on, I'm gonna wait just a second and see if I can get reconnected. Okay, it says reconnection is successful. So we're gonna keep talking. And all the way to a 6B pencil, which is going to be a really soft lead graphite pencil, and so it's gonna make a darker mark because that graphite just falls off the pencil because it's like rich and buttery and super soft. I like drawing in a 6B, but we have the spectrum of those, and so the kids will get to play with that. It's not necessarily that it's a darker pencil and a lighter pencil. It's that it's easier to draw darker with a soft pencil and easier to draw lighter with a hard pencil because I don't have to do as much adjusting on my pressure. So we'll play with that a little bit. We'll introduce the concept of value in vocabulary. We're not expecting a lot of difference in value. That's more of a 102 scale, but that doesn't mean we don't use the vocab, and we hopefully start to talk about it. 102 classes. All right, so I've got a whole stack of 102 journals that we're going to look at. I'm going to start with illustrative today. So our illustrative classes last week, they had a lesson in line weight, and they looked at some art by other illustrators and discussed how those illustrators used line weight and line in general, right? So, and we got out all our tools that make different line weights. We have Sharpie markers in different widths. We have microns in different widths. We have a worksheet that they worked on to help practice their line weight and to figure out the tools that make their job easier, right? So if I'm going to do a pretty fat, I don't have an example here. Let's see, do I? No. Oh, here we go. If I'm going to do like a line weight that's a little bit chunkier, one of these tools, even though it's brown, just pretend it's black. One of these tools is going to make that job easy, right? And it's this one, right? So this is a skinny little like Sharpie. We've even got skinnier ones. And then this is a fatter one. So I make my job easier and I switch tools to get my line weight to be a little bit heavier. Now there's challenges with that. So we're learning about the tools that we have in the studio and how to make them work for us. In doing the line weight practice, we also created a panel comic strip so that we could practice those skills. So we're looking at familiar characters. We weren't really challenging them to come up with anything other than maybe their own original characters that they usually draw. But we were looking for the technical skills in the application. So, and then you can see they've got their lesson label up there as well. Here's another really great example of a comic strip using different line weights, right? This one almost has like some cross hatching happening in there, which is a whole nother lesson, but great value. And then here's of course the lesson label on the back, and their worksheets in the middle. But we won't pull that up. But good stuff in there. All right. In this week's class, so we're going to stay in that technical side of things, again, getting familiar with the materials that we have in the studio, what they have at their disposal, and then how to use them. So they're going to look at our alcohol ink marker selection and practice coloring with those, which you're like, they already know how to color. But do they know how to color with alcohol ink markers? Because they are special. So we're gonna practice some skills, blending and layering and just proper coloring skills. So that's the plan there. It's usually a very popular lesson. Everybody loves alcohol ink markers, right? All right, in my 102 realistic class, that's what this picture is from, we had these white shapes. This one here is the cube. You can see that's in front here. And you can see the value. This is a good picture for that. So the top is the brightest. It always is because we have overhead lights. And then the sides are defined not by lines, but by the different values. And so we practice that. This is a really deceptively tricky lesson because we're not only dealing with when we have an arrangement of them, we have relative scale, we have positioning, we have perspective, we have linear perspective, and then we have values. So lots of stuff going on here. So we practiced drawing these guys. You can see the lesson label there. And we also had a worksheet on values using both graphite and charcoal. So Here's an example of that. Here's another really great example. Now this lesson is a benchmark lesson. It's one of those that we repeat in April for this crew because they're going to get better at this. This artist, this is not their first time in 102, you can tell. Yeah. And their value scale. One more. All those angles are really, really hard. So good stuff happening there in our 102 classes. This week in 102 Realistic, we're going to switch mediums and we're going to go to chalk pastels. So they're going to, again, this was from life because they were drawing an object that was sitting on the table in front of them. And they'll switch from drawing from life to drawing from photograph. And so we've got photographs of different landscapes. They're in color, and we'll use chalk pastels to render them. Should be a really great exercise. We usually do it on toned paper in their journals, and it's a crowd favorite. So. All right, 103. I don't have any examples for 103 because it's only week 2. So remember, 103 is not a lesson-based class. 103 is a project-based class. So they have a project that they're going to work on for 4 weeks. Last week we introduced that project to them, and then they will spend the next 4 weeks executing it. The project for our 103 Realistics is a celebrity portrait done in charcoal. We practiced with charcoal. We reviewed different types of charcoal. We have vine charcoal, compressed charcoal, and charcoal pencils here in the studio, so they spent a lot of time just exploring the different types that we have. We also have multiple types of erasers. We've got eraser pencils, kneaded erasers, rubber erasers, just so that everybody was familiar with all the supplies that we had and maybe the benefits and not so benefits of all of them. They found their celebrity and they got it printed so that they have their reference. Some of them will work from their phone and they didn't need it printed, but most people like to have it printed next to them. And then this week, they'll start tackling the actual, like, sketching out the contour, getting all the facial features the way they want it, and begin applying values. So I should have something next week to show you where their progress is. For our 103 Illustrative, they have multiple parts in their project. This is a tricky one to start the year. They're looking at classic Disney, so these like jelly bean kind of characters. And so we spent some time last week just understanding what this body type, character type looks like and designing their own characters. Did a lot of thumbnail sketches and then putting those original characters. So we're not drawing like Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck. Like we're not drawing those and then like, that's not the plan. The plan is to look at the style that those illustrators used and then draw our own original characters in that style. So it's really challenging because it's like for a lot of our kids, it's like if I were to say, hey, change your handwriting. Write different, right? It just doesn't come naturally. But we really want to challenge a lot of our 103 Illustrative kiddos to expand their kind of their niche, right, and their style. So anyway, so they drew some characters in that style. They worked on getting them in an arrangement. In week 2, we're gonna totally switch away from the characters, and we're gonna work on the setting that these characters will be in. We've got a quick lesson in 1-point and 2-point linear perspective, which for these kids hopefully is a review, and then they can design out their cityscape, and then they will set their characters into that cityscape or streetscape scene. All right, a couple housekeeping things. So this is where I said we were going to talk about weird stuff at the end of the month. So coming up at the end of the month in September, there are 5 Tuesdays. So we do not have classes on September 30th because it's the 5th, right? Remember, because everybody either meets 3 or 4 times. Our fundamentals kiddos, you guys had, you're always going to have an off day because you've got only 3 classes every month. You already had your off day. That was last week. But my multimedia kids who only meet 4 times a month, right? When there's 5, you got to have a day off because we can't give Tuesday people an extra day of classes and not give everybody an extra day. So this is an off day. It's on your calendar. So if you don't know how to find your class calendar, look at there's a note in the notes section of this video. It's on the For Current Students webpage. We talked about it in last week's video. But you can actually see your class calendar and when your class is meeting and when your off days are. And you could even export that to your iCalendar or your Google Calendar if you want to, or you can just keep watching the videos and I'll try to remind you. But there are no classes on Tuesday, September 30th. Our studios are closed. All right. I got to get to my notes because I'm doing all this off memory and I feel like that's a bad idea. Okay. All right. So this note here, are you in the right class? So our number one goal is not just to take your tuition money. Like, that is not it. We want to make sure your kiddos are in the class that's best for them. So the class that it will help them achieve their goals, the class that they are comfortable in, right? Even, okay, so you might have a class that we have multiple sessions of, say, a 6th, 7th grade class. We've got one in Liberty that's 12 kids. I've got one in Liberty that's like 2, right? We want you in the class that kind of matches your vibe. So even though those classes are learning the same thing, maybe one's a better fit. We also have, of course, the drawing classes and the multimedia classes. We have 102 versus 101. My goal is that your kid is where they want to be and where we are achieving their goals. Now, I love your goals too, parents, but ultimately I'm here to serve your kiddos. So I want to know what their goals are, and I want them to be happy. If we notice, like, because my instructors have been told to keep their eyeballs, like, peeled, especially for these first couple weeks of classes, for kids that maybe are not making connections, are not real happy to be there. And if we see that, we discuss it. We have a staff meeting every single week, and they are told to bring that information to me. We discuss it. Sometimes we know your kids, and so, we just chalk it up to a grain of salt. We put it on a tracking sheet, and we check in later. But if you're getting an email from me, it's because it was brought up by your instructor. Like, hey, this doesn't seem like the right match. And I'm not saying that we're going to, like, move them. Like, we have to move them. We just want to have a conversation with you about maybe what you're seeing at home or feedback that you're getting so that we can make sure that your kid is in the right class. Conversely, if your kid does a really great job of masking and we don't notice in class, but you're seeing something at home, please reach out to me because we do want to make sure that they are in a good fit for the school year. So let me know. You can reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, or email is the best way to get a hold of me. If it's easier to explain in a phone call, still reach out to me in Facebook, email, or Instagram messages and just say, like, I want to chat, and we'll set up a phone call. That allows me to do a little bit of research ahead of time. If you just call me, I might stumble a little bit because I have to like find you in the system and look at the roster and maybe talk to my instructor. So let me know because I do want to make sure that your kid is in the right place. That's really long-winded. I'm done. Okay. How makeups work. We have makeups every single week. If you miss your class, we want you to come in and get that time in. So you can do that. You just have to make a reservation. Don't just drop in. Platwoods has makeups for preschoolers on Thursdays and makeups for big kids on Fridays. Liberty has makeups for preschoolers on Mondays and makeups for big kids on Wednesdays. It's getting towards the end of the video. My brain gets fried. And you come in. If you look at the makeup page on the website, there's tons of information about what to expect when you come. It is not like a class. It is very bare bones, but it will get you so that you are, like, it'll get you the lesson. What you're missing is the community time. So you're missing the, like, discussion. You're missing the critique. You're missing, like, so it takes, like, less time because it's almost like you're here for a private lesson. So we're just gonna get you in, get you what you need, and get you out. On that note, I know families are busy, and if you're like, Allison, like, Tuesday night was the only night we could fit an art class in. We sure as heck can't fit a makeup in on Wednesday if we miss Tuesday. Like, it's just a wash. That's okay, too. I am not telling you there are makeups to put more on your plate. I am telling you there are makeups because, as a parent, things happen, and I'm busy, and if I paid for an art class, I want an art class. And so that's why. That's why there's makeups. But ultimately, it's not to put more on your plate. It's just for more options and more flexibility. So, and if some reason, like, makeups times don't work with your family, you can definitely reach out and we can see if we can fit you in at a different time with a different class, something, okay? We really do want to make this work for you, okay? And get you the studio time if we can, okay? All right. That's everything on my list. I felt really long. I don't know if it was, but I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your Monday and a great week. I'll see a lot of you guys in the studio this week. Hopefully we have water back in Plattwood soon. If you need anything from me, please reach out. That's what I'm here for. Have a good one, guys.